Hi, everyone. Welcome to the MrpTech Podcast. This is episode 4. This is a weekly podcast for me to review multiple platforms and technologies to see what works best for you. This week, we're going to take a look at the Apple event from this past Monday. We're going to take a look at some of the devices that were unveiled, and we're also going to talk about my thoughts on the overall performance from that event. And before we get into that, I want to talk about what my thoughts were before the event started. And my thoughts were basically, here we go again. This is going to be the same old, same old. This is a small event, and we weren't really expecting a whole lot from that. And if you've ever watched these Apple events before, they're basically all constructed the same way. And it all came from Steve Jobs, who was very particular about his performances on unveiling these new devices. And I encourage you all to go search on YouTube. There is a video of Steve Jobs unveiling the original Macintosh and back in the mid-1980s. And if you watch some older Steve Jobs videos and the newer Steve Jobs videos, they're basically all the same type of overall theme to his unveiling of devices. And even today with Tim Cook running Apple, it still has that same idea over and over and over again. However, once the event started, it took a different tone for me for some reason. And instead of getting right into some of their newer products, the first thing that they talked about was Apple's recycling program. And this kind of surprised me a little bit. And I'm glad that they actually did this. And first of all, with their environmental responsibility movement that they're doing, they're trying to use all of their Apple stores and all of their office buildings and data centers. They're trying to make all of those run off of renewable energy. And I was really surprised by some of the numbers that they pointed out. For instance, 100% of all U.S. operations run on renewable energy. I thought that was a really great thing for a hardware company to be doing. And 100% of all of their data centers run on renewable energy. And not only does that mean that all of their back-end servers and everything running on renewable energy, but when you use something like iMessage or you're using apps on your phone that connect to Apple servers, you are actually contributing to a company that uses renewable energy, and they are making headway every day to make 100% of all of their companies across the globe renewable. And I gave them super props for that. And so on their website, apple.com/environment, they have their percentages listed there, and basically they're saying that 87% of global operations run on renewable energy of the Apple company. So I thought that was pretty awesome of them to bring that up. And so basically they are trying to encourage other companies to reuse and recycle. And this is not something that I have seen before from Apple. And I know in the past they've talked about being environmentally friendly, but this event they actually went into how they are being environmentally friendly and things they're doing in other countries, such as putting solar panels on top of buildings in places that are really congested where they can't build solar farms. So I was really interested in that as they explained it. And one of the things that they talked about is something that they've been working with on past devices and leaving out some toxic chemicals that are in most devices. For instance, they're not using mercury or beryllium or lead or arsenic or polyvinyl chloride. And so they're leaving out a lot of toxic chemicals and using chemicals that are safe and for people to use and for the environment. And really, that's one of the things that hit me the most out of this particular event was they spent a lot of time talking about their recycling program. And they even showed a video of a robot that they built called Liam, which takes apart old iPhones and takes out all of the reusable content from these iPhones, whether it's screws or like lithium ion battery lithium from ion batteries and all the different silver parts that can be reused to build different things. And they have a really neat video on their website. It's apple.com/recycling, where they show this robot tearing apart an iPhone and reusing the parts for new things, which I think is great. They actually developed this robot in-house, and it's one of the only robots in the world that can do this. I found that really interesting, and encourage you to take a look at some of that. I gave you those websites, apple.com/recycling and apple.com/environment. So take a look at those. And if you're interested in recycling, the iPhone upgrade and trade-up programs are a great way to do that. They take all of the old iPhones that can be recycled, and they recycle those. If their phone is still working, then they reuse them. They sell them. They sell them again, and they make their devices so they last forever. And even if you want the latest and greatest, somebody else can use an older device. And again, reusing and recycling is very important. So they're thinking ahead through the whole lifespan of their devices. They're thinking from the very creation of them all the way to where they demolish the device and reuse the parts for something else. And again, they spent lots of time talking about this, and I really actually kind of appreciated the fact that they brought this up. They're doing a lot of great things, and I hope they inspire a lot of other companies to do the same. And they are on their way to being 100% renewable as far as the energy that they use to use all of their services. So that was a great thing to hear from Apple. Another thing that kind of caught me off guard watching this program was, other than the devices that everybody was expecting, they were talking about research kit, the health kit, and the care kit that they introduced. And with care kit, basically they are giving people with some sort of ailments an opportunity to track their health and take care of themselves in a way that they may not have been able to do before. And their explanation was, when you're released from a hospital, you normally get a piece of paper with all of the things that you're supposed to do to help your health and help your health get better. And many people disregard those notices, and they often continue to have health problems when they are released from the hospital. So with CareKit, they did a focus on people with Parkinson's disease, and they've come up with an app for those people with Parkinson's. And it's a way for them to track their health, and they can actually connect with their doctors, and they can share data with their doctors. Their doctors can evaluate their results, and they can change maybe their medication or something else in their diet or their what they're doing every day to offset maybe some problems that they are having. And it's an open sourced app for health monitoring. And basically what I really liked was that they mentioned that the privacy is controlled by the user. So you decide who you want to share your data with. If you wanted to share your data with a doctor, you could, but you don't have to. You could monitor your health for yourself. And again, this was for people with Parkinson's disease, but in the future there are more apps coming out for other things as well. And now a lot of people may think that there's a lot of different opinions on this type of thing. And when I first started hearing about these health apps, I was thinking, this is just a way for these big companies to track more information from you and to get more data from you and to try to sell you more things. However, last summer, on a personal note for me, I decided to try some of these other health apps out there. The health app for iPhone I was using quite a bit, and I started coming across some other apps that were not put out by Apple, such as MyFitnessPal and Map My Walk. And basically what I found was these are great resources for somebody who wants to take care of themselves but didn't have a whole lot of background information to start with, and somebody who just kind of wanted to improve their diet or exercise a little bit more and really kind of keep track of their information that they use day to day, week to week, and month to month. So I started using MyFitnessPal, which basically is a calorie counter. It you can keep track of all of your meals and everything that you eat. And I sort of learned that I was eating way too many calories during the day. And with that, I started walking a whole lot more. I started using Map My Walk, which was an app that maps out your walking patterns if you go for walks every day. And basically, all this information helped me learn what I needed to do to be healthy. And I have definitely improved since I started using these apps, and I've been using them almost a year now. And with that, I have actually lost about 30 pounds, and I'm feeling much healthier and much more energy in my life. And so before I got into all of this, I didn't really know a whole lot, and I thought that my diet was okay, and I definitely learned a lot of really simple ways that you can become more healthy. And for those of you who are wanting to become more healthy, these apps are great resources, and I definitely encourage you to check some of them out, whether it's just the Apple Health app or the MyFitnessPal and Map My Walk, which are available for other devices as well. So that's enough of the behind the scenes from the beginning of the Apple event, where they're talking about recycling and care kit and some of those things. Let's get into the devices. First of all, they brought up new watch bands for the Apple Watch, and I'm not going to talk about that a whole lot because it's not really something that most people want to hear about. So I'm just going to gloss over that. Unless you have an Apple Watch, then you might be interested in that. One of the other things that I found interesting was this Apple iPhone SE, and basically the specs that they gave for this device, it is for somebody who wants a modern phone and doesn't want the larger screen. So the iPhone SE is the power of an iPhone 6 in a 4-inch screen. So it's a 4-inch screen. It's got a 12 megapixel camera. It's got 2 gigs of RAM, and it's got a powerful 1642 milliamp per hour battery in it. It is going to be released on March 31st. It's for all of the popular networks. It's going to have LTE and GSM, CDMA, all of those things for Verizon and Apple. And it's basically just an upgrade of the iPhone 5S. It looks very similar to the iPhone 5S. Seems to be only in the rose gold finish at this point. Who knows if there will be more. And does have the fingerprint reader and much of the modern technologies that you'll see in iPhone 6. So definitely an upgrade for those that want the iPhone in a smaller package. And I'm seeing now that there is actually going to be other colors: the space gray, the silver, the gold, and rose gold. But the big thing here is there is a market for people who want smaller screens. And I have an iPhone 6 right now, iPhone 6S right now, and those phones are big. They're and I don't necessarily mind having the larger screen for some things, but in most cases I just kind of want to have a smaller phone. And if this were out a few months ago, I probably would have thought about this phone in particular a little more seriously than I did back then. So I didn't know back then they were planning on making a smaller phone, but there is a market for people who want those small phones, and we wish that this hopefully will continue and that they'll have a smaller phone and a larger phone. And then there is use cases for the large 6S Plus too. So at least there's a market now for anybody who wants those phones. And the next device that they talked about was the Apple iPad Pro. Now, I've got some mixed reviews for this. The iPad Pro looks great. It's an update. There's a lot of things that are great about this. Same size as the iPad Air 2. They're calling something a True Tone ambient sensor that basically will adjust the brightness and color temperature of the display to give you a more realistic display. What I don't like about this iPad Pro 9.7 is the price tag. And for this, they're starting at $599 for 32 gigabyte only, and they've skipped over the 64 gigabyte model and jumped right to a 128 gigabyte model for $749. Now, I don't think this is a really great idea. I'm glad that they didn't go with a 16 gigabyte model, because apps are getting larger, more people are using these devices, and the 16 gigabyte models are just filling up very quickly. So I'm glad that they're starting with a 32 gigabyte model, but I think that they should have offered a 64 gigabyte model for those people who wanted an extra amount of space with these devices, but can't really afford the 128 gigabyte model. With the Pro name, you're going to get the price tag with that comes along with it, basically starting at $599. However, with this new iPad coming out, they've lowered the prices of the iPad Air 2 from $499 to $399 for the base model of that. You're getting some features there that you may find that you want an iPad Air 2 because it's cheaper. You don't have to spend as much. But with the the iPad Pro, you're getting 4 gigs of RAM. You're getting the latest graphics and processor and the A9X processor. So you're getting the basic improvements that you would see every year with an iPad. So these devices, they weren't anything spectacular that I saw. I was, again, more impressed with all of the other things that you see with all of their efforts behind the scenes. They're getting ready to open up their new Apple campus, which will be open in 2017 or 2018. They also talked about an iOS 9.3 update, which offers some features as far as a nighttime mode where the blue shading in the display of the iPhone will adjust so that your eyes will be able to adjust better in the dark, so that it won't keep you up late at night, apparently. And so they offered quite a bit packed in this little event, and it was a very small event. And they also talked about how this was the last event in this particular venue that they've been using for the last 40 years or so. So there was a little bit of nostalgia there. There was one comment made that sort of caught me off guard, and that comment was a jab at Windows or Windows users about using 5-year-old computers and that being sad. Using a 5-year-old computer being sad. So what they were trying to get across here was they want you to abandon your Windows computer and buy an iPad, because the iPad is the most powerful PC now on the market. Now, a company that is focused on recycling and reusing and making their products last as long as they possibly can, why would a 5-year-old computer be sad? Why would somebody or a business comment on that when they were working so hard to become environmentally friendly and use renewable energy? So people who use 5-year-old computers, they may not be able to afford a brand new Mac computer. And people that do have Macintosh computers, they may not be able to buy a new $1,500 or $2,000 MacBook laptop every 2 years like Apple wants them to. Why would you disgrace your customers and insult your customers with that comment saying a 5-year-old computer is sad? I've got a 5-year-old computer at home that I've sort of rebuilt and upgraded parts to. It's probably more than 5-year-old now. It's actually probably, now that I think about it, it's probably about 8 years old. And it's a great little work laptop. I've upgraded the hard drive to an SSD. I've upgraded the RAM on it, and sort of my test machine that I use for testing various things. And for someone who just needed a computer, it would be an awesome computer. It's the battery is still great. It's still pretty fast, and this idea of always needing something new every few years is just, and it's not just Apple that's doing this. There's a lot of companies that are wanting you to renew and spend money every few years when your device works just great. So I thought that was a really weird comment made by a company who is trying so hard to reuse and recycle their products just to get more customers to abandon their Windows computer and come over to an iPad. It was a very awkward segment, and not something that I've normally seen from Windows or from Apple. There's always an occasional slight joke about Google or Microsoft in their events, but this one was, I think, something that may have crossed a line with some people. Anyway, these are just my opinions. You may find that you have your own opinion, and some of you may have liked that joke, and that's perfectly acceptable. I just thought it was very awkward and weird to hear that comment being made. Now, these Apple events have been pretty much the same every single time that I've seen them, whether or not they're unveiling a new product or talking about a new operating system or new things such as Apple TV or Apple Watch. And there's an approach that they take that I've always found interesting. And I've got a couple of really good books for you to take a listen to. First of all, if you're interested in Apple, I highly recommend that you read the Steve Jobs biography by Walter Isaacson. That's the story of Steve Jobs from his birth all the way to his death. And this book talks about how brutal Steve Jobs was and how many of the people that he worked with, they loved him and they hated him all at the same time. And his basic philosophies on his products and the way that he wanted to announce these products. He would spend hundreds of hours preparing for these events. He would practice until it was perfect. He would not want the event to happen unless everything was going to be exactly the way he wanted it to. And there's another book called The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs, where this is by Carmine Gallo. And in this book, they talk about the rule of 3, where they're not going to give more than 3 different things to talk about during these events so that people will remember these things. So in this case, we have got the iPhone, we've got the iPad, and we have new Apple Watch bands that they talked about. And these books are a great insight to the event process at Apple and gives you an idea of how all of these things are constructed to make you think that Apple is the greatest thing and there's nobody else on planet Earth that's any better than Apple. And there are a lot of businesses that do this, but Apple has really taken the front line on these types of events. And many different businesses out there are modeling this from Apple and really taking their events and trying to mimic what Apple does. And it was all basically from Steve Jobs. And so I definitely recommend you to go read these books, Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson and The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs by Carmine Gallo. And I actually I listen to these audiobooks. They are available in the Kindle store. They're available on hardcover or soft covers from Amazon as well. And I really, if anybody's interested in Apple, those 2 books are just great insights to everything that happens in that company, especially the Steve Jobs biography. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed my review of the Apple event. This is going to be a weekly podcast from now on, and I'm going to try to stick with that for a while, and I'm making these podcasts a little bit longer every time, going into some detail. And if you agree with what I said, that's great. If you disagree with what I say, that's great too. Let me know. Send me some feedback. Give me some ideas on what I can talk about. Give me some ideas of what I can do better. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm right. And you can get a hold of me. You can check out my Facebook page. This is MrpTech Reviews. you can email me, mrptechreviews@gmail.com. We've also got a great new website up and running, mrptechreviews.wix.com/home. This is a new website that's up in... It was something that we could build for free for the time being as we build this podcast for future episodes. Send me your feedback, give me ideas, and we hopefully will be doing this for a while, and we're hoping to do this once a week, and we're looking forward to hearing you. So that's it for this time, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.